evening and welcome to episode 18 of In at the Side. Tonight it's just me and JK, and tonight we're joined by the man who does this. Of course, we're joined tonight by Wasps back rower Ben Morris. How are you tonight, Ben?
Really good, thank you. You all right?
Yeah, not too bad, thank you. I think we'll just start with the breaking news. Obviously, Premiership Rugby looking to restart again early July. They're talking about hosting multiple games at one or two different venues, a couple of midweek matches to get through the rest of the season. What's your thoughts on that?
I mean, it'd be great to get back playing as soon as possible, but obviously health and safety and all that takes priority. But I mean, if we can get the season going again and get it finished, then that'd be great. But it's just a shame it stopped when it did, because we started building up a bit of momentum and on a bit of a roll. So it came at the wrong time, but that's life, I suppose. Just got to deal with what it is we're dealing with.
Do you think it's because the clubs are really eyeing up Europe, essentially, making sure wherever happens to put themselves in the right place, ready for what could happen with the European rugby next year?
I guess that'll be an element of it. But then I don't know. It's just I guess there's the financial side of things as well. Just trying to keep the clubs alive, the sort of the revenue that comes with playing games and sponsorship and all that. Trying to get that finished, but yeah, it's tough to see sort of how everything's going to fall into place at the minute, because sort of no one really knows. And I think it was today they said in France there's going to be no sport until September. So whether we go along that road and say we're not playing sport until September or what have you, just got to wait and see. And when everything's sort of given the green light, we can get back into it. But until then, it's just in limbo.
So what plans have Wasps got in place then? Are they already starting to filter down what their ideas of how things are going to work with you guys, or have they started filtering saying you need to up what you're doing in preparation?
So I mean, at the minute we've been sent out like programs to do, so sort of like running and stuff like that, and they opened up the gym and we sort of booked in slots to go and grab sort of equipment and take it home. So I think most lads have got a few bits at home that they can do sort of gym wise. Then in terms of getting back into sort of training as a team, I think towards the end of May, the plan is to sort of hopefully go in small groups so they can control like social distancing while we're training. So I guess you'll be given a channel on the pitch and you'll be running up and down the pitch a few metres away from your mate at the side. So there'll be no hiding, definitely, with that. But yeah, so I think three or 4 weeks of sort of mini pre-season and then hopefully back into games after that. So yeah.
Do you think they're going to absolutely try and annihilate you in session one?
I don't think so. Dan Barr, the S&C guy, he's a great guy, and he said the first session back we've got to Broncos. So I mean, everyone sort of knows what's coming, and we've all got targets that we're supposed to go for. But I don't think anyone necessarily is going to be sort of absolutely bollocks if they've done nothing, because it's a pretty tough time. But I think lads are sensible enough to know that they need to do a bit of training and stay in shape. It's a job at the end of the day, isn't it? So we shouldn't come back and get beasted, but then again, who knows what's coming.
So they're talking at provisional plans for the Prem final to be mid-August. Obviously July, so that, doesn't really leave a lot of time for sort of 8 or 9 games to be crammed in. What do you think? Is it going to be more squad rotation, stuff like that to deal with that? Do you reckon?
I mean, if they're planning on playing multiple games in a week, then it's going to have to be squad rotation, because I know it's tough enough going from a Sunday game into a Friday, sort of backing it up like that. So yeah, it'll come down to playing with the whole squad rather than just an out 23 that will get picked week in, week out. Which could be a good opportunity for some of the fringe players who maybe don't get as much game time. But then you have to think about like injuries and what have you. And if sort of a couple of players go down in a certain position, then people are going to be expected to back it up like 8 games, like you say, in a pretty short amount of time. So that'll be a big ask. So that's definitely one consideration that whoever's planning it will have to take into account.
Yeah, definitely. And there's got to be an element of safety at the end of the day, because there's a lot of games and it's going to have not just a physical impact on players. There's going to be that mental strain of having to, obviously you're used to training in a different way, and obviously it's going to absolutely change just for that period of time. You're going to have lighter before games, between games, and it's not the same intensity. Then because you're not doing that intense training, that falls into the game where you're not doing an intense game. Do you think that's going to be backing off in games, or?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'll say at the minute, like before all this happened, we'd have a training week and we'd have there'd be an intense day. It'd be like a performance session, and it would be near enough full on in training, live tackling and stuff. So you need that preparation during the week to prepare for a game at the weekend. And if you're playing 2 games a week, then you're not going to be able to go live in training, and you're not going to be able to get that preparation that you need to perform at your best at the weekend. So it's, if they are playing multiple games in a week, then it's probably going to have a massive effect for the game at the weekend.
Well, hopefully they'll sort something out, and obviously safety is going to be number one. It's going to show strength and depth at the end of the day as well, especially with the clubs in the bottom half of the table. It'd be a good chance for them to start showing the strength and depth they really have. We know the likes of Saracens have got the strength and depth. Exeter got the strength and depth. Wasps definitely have the strength and depth. But it'd be good to see what depth Leicester have or Worcester has, and it'd be good. It's good to see how they perform.
Yeah, definitely. Like I said, I mean those fringe players who might get the odd game in the Prem Cup or maybe a European appearance, it'll be a good opportunity for them to get Prem experience if that does happen. So. I mean, for me, I've been sort of on the fringe a bit this season, off the bench a couple of times in the Prem, and if it meant that I got a bit more game time, then I'd be all for that. But then again, that's the player safety thing that you have to come back to. It's a big ask, so that's priority really.
Definitely. So obviously, moving towards your senior career, you've had a number of clubs.
A few.
Since joining, obviously you were Yorkshire born and bred. Oh, you're not Yorkshire born, are you?
No, I was born in Lancaster. I mean, I think every single bio that I had on a rugby website is said Yorkshire born. And born in Lancaster, and then I think moved to Yorkshire when I was maybe 3 or 4. So
plastic Yorkshire.
Well, I mean, I don't remember any of my time in Lancashire. So, adopted Yorkshireman.
Yeah, so obviously, number of clubs. Obviously, you started at Ponty. Did you play senior Ponty, or did you?
No, I didn't.
Straight into, was it Leeds?
Yeah, so I was 12 when I first went down to Ponty Rugby Club, and the only team they had was the under-16s. So that was my playing club rugby. Which was great. I mean, it was unbelievable playing with lads like 4 years older than me, and sort of coping and playing quite well for my age. And then into the academy at Leeds, and then played a few games at Otley. So that was my first experience of men's rugby. So that was good crack. And then moved up to Newcastle to go up to uni up there, and did a year at Westo down there, and then on to Blaydon after that for 2 and a bit years, and got into the academy at Newcastle after that. 2 years in the academy at Newcastle, then down to Nottingham. When I was at Newcastle, I was on loan at Rotherham for a year and a bit. So that was my first sort of dealing with Lee Blackett, and reunited with him now.
Off down to
Yeah.
Lady A.
Yeah, and then Nottingham, and then onto Wasps. So yeah, quite a few clubs.
I thought I was bad, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Fine.
Do you think, obviously, traveling those different clubs kind of set you up for where you are now, and it helped to have those different coaching styles, those different teams running out against a mixture of different clubs kind of helps you where you are now, or would you prefer to have had extended times at other clubs?
To be honest, I think the way I've done it has probably been pretty good. Like when I set out playing rugby, it was never sort of my dream to be a professional rugby player. I was in the academy at Leeds, and I had the choice of sort of staying on in the academy or going to university. And like I said, I didn't know that rugby was going to be a career, so I thought go to uni, get a degree, get a bit of different life experience, have a few years on the piss, play a bit of rugby alongside, and turned out all right. So I've managed to get to where I'm at now. So yeah, I won't going to change it. I've had a great time. Like every club's sort of got a special place in my heart. I've met some great people on the way, played with some great players, and some great experiences.
Yeah, and obviously being underneath, obviously when you went to Nottingham, you were under Matt Everard.
Yeah, he was playing with me there, yeah. And then,
obviously learning the trade and then getting through on him was very helpful for when Dai kind of started to snap you up.
Yeah, definitely. I think, well, it was when Cozzy was the head coach and he announced that he was moving there, and I was like, sort of in his ear, like, is there any back row spot? Didn't hear anything, so I was like, I was signed on to stay at Nottingham for another 2 years, and had a clause in my contract saying I could get out if a Premiership club came in, and it was the last day of my clause that I had in my contract that I got a call from my agent being like, "Oh, Wasps are interested, so get ready if it comes through." And so it was like transfer deadline day, signing, getting it all done.
What were your emotions like when you got that phone call?
Yeah, I was a bit shocked, elated, surprised. Like playing in the Champ when I was at Rotherham and at Nottingham, it was great level. Really, really enjoyed it, but I always sort of wanted to push on. Having played at that level, and I was like, yeah, it was a dream to get the call and say there's a Premiership club interested. And yeah, I mean, hopefully I'll stay in the Prem as long as I can, but I'm just enjoying my time while I'm here.
No, definitely. And obviously, given the fact that we come from a sevens team, you had a stint in the sevens, didn't you?
I played a little bit.
The Premiership sevens for the old Falcons?
Yeah, played in the Prem sevens a few times. Probably
different game.
Yeah, I wouldn't say I was a conventional sevens player.
No.
Look for the contact and then try and get the ball away to someone who's a bit faster than me. But that was it. It was great playing in the sevens. That was my first sort of experience playing in front of the big crowd at Franklin's Gardens, and being on TV and what have you. It was really good. It was mostly academy lads and a couple of older boys thrown in there, like Richie Mayhew, and that was a great laugh. Just a bit of fun. We ended up winning the group stages as it was back then, and then onto the finals, which we didn't do as well in, but that great experience. It was good fun.
Yeah, it's a different game. A lot more running. A lot more skill. A lot of the skills have to be definitely upped when it comes to sevens.
Yeah, they're a lot more highlighted because there's. I mean, if you can't sort of catch and pass, then you're going to struggle.
This is why Dom. That's why Dom manages.
Oh, Jesus, that's a bit harsh.
Am I wrong?
That's outrageous.
Am I wrong?
Yeah, you are actually.
Oh, in fact, Dom, when did you play last year?
Yeah, played Essex, Northampton.
How many games?
3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Oh, you actually did.
Probably about 9.
Oh, Jesus.
I think Neil played 30 odd, which was quite impressive for the oldest man in the Seventh Circuit.
I won't select him. So, obviously, you're now 28.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you'll be getting into the thoughts of what happens next, what happens in the future. What's your plans for when, obviously, professional rugby starts to die down?
I've already done a little bit of planning, so hopefully sort of go into the finance world. So my missus, she works in the finance world already, and she's been doing her financial exams. And I was like, I just have a flick through the textbook, see if I sort of understand it, and I understood it. I was like, it's not too boring. It interests me a bit. So I sort of cracked on, and I've done 2 exams towards that. So that's sort of my plan at the minute, is go down that route into advising or something like that.
Nice. Is that what you studied at university then, or?
I did geography at uni, a generic rugby player degree.
Well,
Yeah.
At least it wasn't media.
Yeah. So I mean, at the time when I was choosing courses to go to uni for, geography was the only subject at school that I was relatively good at and enjoyed. And it's quite a versatile degree. I mean, it covers a lot of aspects. I mean, one of the modules I did at uni was geographies of money, so it was financially related, and it was the best module that I did. So that's probably where the finance element ties in to my degree. But apart from that, I don't know how else I'd use my geography degree. Everyone says geography teacher. I'm like, I'm not going to be a teacher. All the women in my family, like my sister, my mum, my auntie, they're all teachers, and it sounds like a tough job. I don't think they get enough credit for what they do. So I couldn't.
I don't know. My geography teacher at school was fantastic. He was a rugby player, and he loved the rugby players. Not in that sense, but he played rugby. You were his favourite, and the only reason I probably passed my GCSEs was because he took us lot and went with the coursework. If I didn't,
I mean,
so
yeah. So
geography teachers.
Yeah, I think there is a lot of rugby players that do geography. I mean, when I was at uni, I think I'd say majority of the lads who played rugby were on the geography course. So I don't know. It's a weird correlation, but it is what it is.
So just we've avoided talking about it at the moment. Obviously, COVID. Obviously, the championship season finished.
Yeah.
Obviously, we had the announcement a few months ago about the cuts. You know, obviously you played in the championship. How important is the championship in your opinion? You know, in the grand scheme of things, because obviously we get a lot of mixed opinions and stuff like that. And at this time, you know, there's going to be a lot of clubs struggling down there.
I think it's massively important to the professional game, like the whole setup of the country. Just my experience alone playing at Nottingham, there was George Furbank, Alex Moon, Will Stewart, all on loan at Nottingham and then gone on to the England squad. So, I mean, it just shows that it's a competitive league and it's developing good players. So, I mean, they don't get enough credit for what they do. They operate on a shoestring budget and produce good players. And to sort of take money away from them, it's just going to hit it even harder. And to be honest, like the salaries aren't great, and people do it because they want to push on and progress into the Premiership. And clubs won't be able to offer as much as they were, which wasn't a lot. So it's probably going to have less appeal for someone who's sort of wanting to sacrifice a bit of money to play rugby. It's just going to be too hard to sort of live. Like everyone's got bills to pay, whether that's rent or a mortgage or in feeding yourself, whatever. So, it's going to be hard to commit to a professional sort of environment on a non-professional salary.
Do you think this, obviously, this current situation with COVID-19, the whole 50% cut in the championship funding, do you think this kind of accelerates the potential plans of ring fencing? Do you think that's where the end goal is likely to become?
I mean, I wouldn't want to see it ring fenced, to be honest. I personally, I'd have the playoffs back. I played in those when I was at Rotherham, and it was unbelievable. And it was, I can't remember what year it was, but it was the Worcester and Bristol game when it came down to the last conversion to see it promoted. I mean, it was unbelievable. And that's what sport's about, having those like massive moments. And ring fencing is the argument that some of the games will be for nothing because there's no relegation. You can just sort of admit defeat this season and start planning for next season. Whereas when there's relegation, every game is competitive. You have to go out and fight to survive, and it brings out the best in people, that pressure. So, personally, I wouldn't want to see it ring fenced.
At the same time, do you think the championship's now kind of screwed for the next season anyways, with the fact that Saracens are going to be playing in that, where a lot of their main players are picked to stay? Obviously, some have tried to go out on loan elsewhere, but Premiership clubs have basically said, not a chance. Do you think that next year's championship is literally a foregone conclusion already? Is there any really point? It's just basically about staving yourself away from relegation.
I mean, realistically, you just expect Saris to win. But, I mean, if they fancy a gritty night down at the Bay on a Friday on a muddy pitch in December...
It'll be interesting.
Yeah, be a few upsets.
I mean, when you had London Irish down in there, and you had Newcastle down there, there were some tough games, especially against the likes of Ealing.
Yeah.
You think top two Saris, should I say, because it's always been a two-horse race in the Premiership. It's not really fair on the Championship. Yes, they need to be punished, but at the same time, you're now punishing the Championship.
Yeah, that's why I think like bringing back the playoffs as again, it just sort of like adds a bit more pressure and gives teams who aren't as rich as Saris. I don't know what the finances are looking like with the fine or whatever, but
not as good as they were last year.
I mean, it makes it more competitive, doesn't it? And gives that chance of an upset potentially.
Yeah, it does, and I think they could potentially. So, like, Ealing would probably push them. Rotherham on a good push them. Nottingham certainly would, but with their depth and with their strength, it's gonna, especially with the cuts, cutting the funding is going to cut some players essentially.
Yeah,
in the Championship, it's going to get to a stage where it's dangerous. Obviously, you're going to have seasoned pros who know how to scrummage, know how to niggle it in a scrum, going up against those who probably haven't had to play against that sort of intensity before. And that's where the danger starts coming in.
I mean, Will Skelton's running at some 18-year-old who just finished school, then,
He's going to break him.
Yeah, there's one outcome, isn't there? I mean, like, it's tough because obviously the Championship's there for players to sort of develop, and then if you're playing against the champions of Europe and what have you, then it's going to be tough to even try anything because realistically they're just going to walk all over you. So
yeah, and mentally it's going to decimate you for that week, and then that will potentially move on to the week after. You're still in that down phase, still thinking about the previous game, and snowballs from on there. Yeah,
I mean, it's still on the flip side though. You can, if you're a young lad just finished school and you're playing against Owen Farrell, for example, it's been like, played against Owen Farrell last weekend, got smashed, but who cares?
Yeah.
We won't talk about how Farrell tackles. Headhunter, I think will be a great one. But,
so obviously money running scarce in the Championship. How are teams going to cut corners and combat this? Are we going to see more part-time players? or less players in the squad? Do you think?
I think there'll probably be a combination of both. I know for Nottingham, I think they announced that they're going to go into a more of a part-time structure next season, which obviously means that they're not going to be able to keep as many players on. I mean, they're quite fortunate that they've got great links with the universities in the city, like NTU. There's quite a few boys who'll come in and train with us and play at the weekend when I was there. So they're quite fortunate for that. And then it'll come down to sort of players coming on loan from Premiership teams, which again is an argument of why the Championship's so good, because it gives that sort of opportunity for fringe players in the Premiership to get game time at a decent level. So if you're cutting that funding, then the standard will drop, and those players who need experience aren't going to be getting as good an experience playing in the Championship.
No, obviously that's going to be taking a big hit on mental health, and obviously a big thing for us. How it is going to be a big thing on mental health, because they're used to playing so much. Now they're having to go find jobs. It's going to demoralise them mentally. How are they going to combat that? Is there things in place at Nottingham and is the other Championship clubs that are going to kind of help them with that?
I'm not really too sure what they've got in place. I think the setup will probably be up to sort of sponsors and businesses in the area who could potentially offer jobs and alongside them training on an evening or whatever. That would be the most logical thing to do, in my opinion. But lads who are sort of resigned to the fact that you can't play part-time rugby and have a job and earn a decent living, so you've got to give one of them up. Can you go from playing competitive professional sport to just having a sort of a run around with your mates at the weekend and enjoy it as much? Perhaps, or some lads might just pack it in completely, and that's a great shame.
The intensity is definitely going to drop. Sad thing about it, and there's nothing we can do about that. I know Nottingham came out a few weeks ago and called the RFU a disgrace for the way they're doing things, but the intensity is definitely going to drop. You can't do high intensity Championship rugby on a Saturday if you're part-time training.
No, I mean Richmond did it, and they were pretty competitive. I'm not sure what Amptill's model is, but they've had a pretty good season up until it stopped. It totally depends on the club and sort of what players they get in. Like some players will be quite happy to just play part time and are good players, but they're not bothered about sort of going the full way and trying to make a career out of it. They're just doing it purely as a bit of fun. Whereas other players who are trying to make it as a professional, it's going to be harder to do it like that, playing part time.
Yeah. Flip side, it'll make it a lot more competitive. There'll be a lot less. It kind of evens out the playing field slightly, if you think about it. Because where you've got some clubs who are fully full time, some clubs are part full time, part time, and some clubs are fully part time. This kind of just absolutely evens it out. And at the same time, yes, we're saying it's going to be less intensity. It's going to be a bit of an issue. But the other end of it, it's going to be very competitive from second place downwards, in my view. Very competitive.
Yeah, I mean, it could almost be just like an extension of Nat 1 at the same sort of level, because I played in that for a while and that was a great league, like competitive games, but there is a step up into the Championship, but I mean, that step up might be less, which then makes a bigger step up into the Premiership. So that transition of players from Championship to Premiership probably drop off. Which is a shame, because that's where, a lot of young English players are playing their rugby, and it's a shame to have so much talent wasted and not make that progression.
No, definitely. But yeah, I think the next 12 months, 18 months, 2 years of rugby is going to be interesting, not just for the Premiership, Championship downwards. As you say, Championship is going to be like an extension of Nat 1. But then we've got the whole around 2021, 2022, they're thinking of doing a whole restructure anyways. So it's going to be absolutely crazy and funny.
Yeah, I mean, who knows what's going to happen, really. Just hopefully get back to some sort of playing in the near future, and I'm sure things will sort of work their way back into normality at some point.
Definitely. I think that's the key thing, is get back playing first, and let's deal with everything afterwards.
Yeah.
Obviously, moving slightly forward, a little birdie in the name of Pash has just told me that you're due to be a father.
I am, yeah.
Congratulations on that one.
Congratulations on that.
How long left?
Just under 4 weeks.
Does she want to kill you yet?
No, she's actually amazing. She's not had any real issues. She's sleeping well, and just as long as she's got enough sleep, then she's pretty good. So
as long as you get the right chocolate.
Yeah, no, sweets. She's sweets. So there's been a few Amazon orders of Haribo coming through the door. But no, I mean, I can't wait. So like the last sort of 3 or 4 weeks, however long we've been locked down for, is been sort of last minute preparation, making sure everything is set. And yeah, what would have been a nice time to sort of spend with the family, it'll just be us doing a newborn. So yeah.
Cherish every moment. Mine's now 6 months and an absolute terror. And luckily we had our little one just beforehand, and luckily we got him first before the whole lockdown happened in October. Yeah, he was born in October. Far away. So now it's literally crazy. And luckily, but to be fair, luckily he won't know these times and what's happened. It'll all be a distant memory to him.
Yeah, exactly. You'll be able to.
What are you having, boy or girl? Don't you know?
No, I didn't find out.
Wow.
Yeah. So
between us lads, what are you hoping for?
I mean, I'd love to have a little boy, but I mean, I'd take a girl as well.
I've always said every man hopes for a boy first, but it's a real man to have a girl. And I'm screwed because I've got 4 boys, so I can't make girls apparently.
Yeah.
But, ever thought about cameoing up the north again, coming up here and have a cheeky one on a Boxing Day?
Well, I mean, I'd love to.
Contracts permitting, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, Christmas never really happens in rugby. It's always game day, isn't it? Boxing Day. So.
Oh yeah.
It's annoying. Like I always around Christmas, I always meet up with my Craig's mates, and it's always like they're getting steaming, and I'm driven up for the night, had a meal, and driving back down wherever it is I need to go because I've got a game the next day. So.
Oh, bet that designated driver, it's fine.
Yeah. So never really works out, but I'm sure at some point in the future, once I've stopped playing.
Dom, keep his details. always space on a sevens to that's a lot.
Yeah. No, maybe not sevens. I mean, it's rolling subs or something like that. Maybe
it's rolling subs. It's fine.
Yeah. So
not really rolling off.
The rest of it.
No, but Ben, it's been great to have a northerner like yourself on. Obviously, especially one from where I'm in Wakey myself, so especially one small where I am. As I say, I think I've just been told about you smashing Pash and left him winded in a varsity match was what we were talking.
Right. Well,
that's where you nearly killed him. No. Thanks for joining us, Ben. It's been great.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I think that's it for myself. Perfect. Normally we'd have a scenario, but scenario Neil's not on, and we're not. We don't.
Should we do the scenario just in his honour?
You can do if you want.
Okay.
Right. So I can't remember the whole spiel. But
I can. It's basically you're in lockdown. You're not go out. Can't go out for your 1 hour's exercise. You can't go out for your food. You're just in lockdown for 2 weeks. Who out of everyone you've played with Wasps would be making an absolute living hell those 2 weeks?
Who did Marcus Watson say?
At Wasps. God, that's tough at Wasps. I'm probably going to have to say Zuzu, just because he's a rabbit. Just because his English would probably grate on me by the end of 2 weeks. Yeah, that's the only one I can think of. I mean, everyone's pretty sound at Wasps.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know who Marcus said.
Yeah, Marlon Yard, I think it was, wasn't it?
Oh, it was Yardy. Yeah, that was it.
Yeah.
He got more than Wasps, but that's all right.
Yeah, he didn't go. Yeah, we had Marcus on before, and
That's what happens when we don't have our scenario professional one. It all goes wrong.
yeah, exactly. But no, Ben, thank you very much for joining us. Privilege, been a pleasure. Hopefully, get you back on in a few months when rugby starts again, and we've actually got something to talk about more than ifs, buts, and maybes.
Yeah, definitely something a bit more permanent. Yeah,
exactly. No worries. Thank you very much, sir.
Perfect. Right, thanks very much.
In a few weeks, let us know when it happens. Let us know what you are.
Thank you very much.
No worries,
Cheers, Ben. Thanks.
Cheers,
See you
guys.
soon. All right. Bye.
Cheers. Bye.
Yeah.